Texas, police respond to a huge water-led shooting into the air.
Authorities closed the road to isolate the leak. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. China denies the allegation that its fishermen used cyanide in the West Philippine Sea. Some congressmen proved their innocence amid allegations involving a rumored coup against the Senate leadership. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is in his last chance to stop his extradition from Britain to the U.S. Let's look into the city life stitch style debuting in this year's London Fashion Week. And find out who scores big wins at the 2024 People's Choice Awards.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
España,
Paris, France.
United Kingdom,
Washington, D.C.
London Bureau, Papua New Guinea,
In New York, New York.
Washington, D.C.
Mata ng Agila. Mata ng Agila.
Mata ng Agila International.
Trusted, connected, on point.
China has denied the claims that its fishermen used cyanide in the Bajo de Masinloc to destroy its marine resources. In a statement, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said, and I quote, "The Chinese government attaches great importance to the protection of eco-environment and conservation of fishing resources and resolutely fights against fishing activities that violate laws and regulations." Mao Ning also described the Philippines Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources claim about the cyanide fishing as sheer fabrication. Cyanide fishing is a destructive method of fishing that utilizes highly toxic chemicals in coral reefs to stun fish, making them easier to catch. China has long claimed that Bajo de Masinloc is part of its maritime territory, as it refers to it as Huangyan Dao. The Chinese embassy in Manila also accused the Philippines of continuous disinformation that has led to the increase of maritime tensions and destabilization of the bilateral relations between the Philippines and China. Meanwhile, National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya said that the agency is looking into the alleged use of cyanide by Chinese fishermen in the said waters in the West Philippine Sea.
As part of the third maritime cooperative activity, the Philippine Air Force and the United States Pacific Air Force held a joint patrol over the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, said 3 PAF FA-50s and a B-52H bomber aircraft of the United States flew from the west of Ilocos Sur to Mindoro Strait. The AFP said the activity shows the commitment of both armed forces to enhance interoperability and advance regional peace and security in the Indo-Pacific. The Philippine Air Force asserted that it is committed to support the AFP's efforts in safeguarding the national territory and sovereign rights of the Philippines. Meanwhile, China criticized the joint patrol of the Philippine Air Force and the United States, claiming that the activity has stirred up trouble in the South China Sea with extraterritorial countries. The China Southern Theater Command said it organized frontline naval and air forces to monitor the activities of the Philippines and the United States in the disputed region. It said it implemented and maintained a high degree of vigilance to resolutely defend national sovereignty. China claims sovereignty over the vast region in the South China Sea, parts of which are also claimed by the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Indonesia.
Some congressmen have denied the allegations that the Congress was behind the rumors about a purported coup d'etat against the Senate leadership. During a caucus, Lanao del Sur Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong questioned the connection of the Congress to the purported coup d'etat in the Senate. Congressman Adyong said that the Congress respects the Senate's independence, a reason for his confusion why the lower chamber of the House was tagged in the Senate's issue. PBA party list representative Margarita Nograles has also expressed her concern on the instances where there is a quarrel in the Senate. The chamber is found at fault in the end. Congresswoman Nograles defended the Congress's innocence to the talks about the purported coup d'etat in the Senate.
The Department of Education is seeking to implement the pilot run of the revised senior high school curriculum in the school year 2025 to 2026. This is confirmed by Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte. The Education Department is currently in the transition of reviewing the curriculum from grades 11 and 12, a bid to produce job-ready and responsible graduates. Last year, the agency launched the revised K-10 curriculum, which is now being piloted in 35 schools nationwide. Under the revised curriculum, the number of learning competencies was cut by 70%. DepEd also reduced the number of subjects, with further emphasis given on the development of kinder to grade 3 learners' foundation skills.
The Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, will release next week the third set of guidelines for the deployment of Filipino seasonal workers to South Korea. DMW officer in charge under Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said they are currently working with different departments of the government, including the Philippine Embassy in Seoul, the Korean Embassy in the Philippines, and the Korean Ministry of Justice to improve policies. Data from the DMW shows there are about 3,353 Filipino seasonal workers in South Korea as of December 2023 who are employed under the Seasonal Worker Program, or SWP. Managed by the Korean Ministry of Justice and the Korean Immigration Service, the SWP allows short-term employment of foreign agricultural workers in South Korea to address labor shortages during the peak planting and harvesting seasons. But Kakdak said their office has received around 150 complaints from the Filipinos employed under the SWP since 2022. Complaints include questionable deductions in wages and involvement of brokers who collect excessive fees in hiring OFWs. There are also 5 documented cases of physical abuse, 5 medical cases, and 4 deaths in 2 years. On January 11, DMW issued its Advisory 1, putting a moratorium on the deployment of seasonal workers to Korea for a temporary period of time. Kakdak cited the Constitution and Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipinos Act, saying there is an unequivocal authority of DMW to step in and regulate the hiring of OFWs for better protection of workers.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, is set to bolster its surveillance and operational capabilities with the acquisition of additional drones. PNP Chief General Benjamin Acorda announced that the force will receive drones worth almost 10 million pesos, along with drone jammers, donated by the Okada Foundation Incorporated. In addition to the drones, a separate donation of 9.98 million pesos will be allocated for the procurement of radio communication equipment. These initiatives were built upon the groundwork laid by former PNP Chief Archie Gamboa in 2019, who spearheaded the procurement of 51 drones and the training of a cadre of drone pilots.
PHIVOLCS says 14,211 tons of sulfur dioxide emissions per day were observed in Taal Volcano. State volcanologists say that Taal has generated an average of 10,000 tons per day since January this year, and notes that this is the second highest sulfur dioxide influx recorded this year. Meanwhile, sulfur stench was observed in Bilibinwang and Banyaga in the municipality of Agoncillo, according to reports of Batangas local government unit. Authorities are still monitoring and assessing sulfur emissions from the areas affected and appropriate mitigation responses to the possible hazards. 17 volcano-related quakes were recorded this year, but all of this activity has remained weak, mostly tremor events associated with volcanic gas activity. State volcanologists advise the areas within Taal Volcano Island on sudden steam-driven explosions, earthquakes, minor ashfall, and expulsion of volcanic gas. Health experts advise the public on possible effects of degassing, like skin irritation and aerosol particles may induce symptoms of asthma.
Coming up, the Indian farmers resumed their march to New Delhi. Ursula von der Leyen announces her bid for a second term. And the clock is ticking for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Let's get together, Sunday 25, Sunday 25.
Sumabak sa matinding dance challenge ang inyong star kada. Very challenging siya for us.
May kailangan kang sundin na tema eh.
Kembot dito, indak doon, suwi ng todo ang bawat grupo.
Matututo rin sila dyan ng stage presence nila.
Mula rehearsals hanggang dulo, sino kaya ang best dance crew?
Battle to guys.
Magkakaalaman sa harap sa dance mentor at judges.
So, are you ready to shine on the dance floor?
Abangan nyo yan dito lang sa
One Goal, One Dream!
Road to Star Kada, Monday to Friday at 5:30 p.m. sa Net 25. See you mga ka-Star Kada!
Let's get together, Sunday 25, Sunday 25.
This portion.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Thousands of farmers will resume their march to New Delhi to demand guaranteed crop prices as government talks failed. Farmers who have been protesting for a week to demand guaranteed crop prices have rejected a proposal from the government and say they will continue their march to the capital of New Delhi. Currently, the government protects agricultural producers against any sharp fall in farm prices by setting a minimum purchase price for certain essential crops, a system that was introduced in the 1960s to help shore up food reserves and prevent shortages. Leaders of the movement said they refused the government's offer of a 5-year contract for guaranteed prices for a set of crops, including pulses, maize, and cotton. This mobilization comes as Jagjit Singh Dalewal, one of the leaders spearheading the protest, said that the government's initial proposal was not made in the interest of farmers. He said that the farmers will resume their march to New Delhi on Wednesday. The farmers who rode in tractors from neighboring Haryana and Punjab states say the government has failed to make progress on other key demands from the previous protests. The farmers' efforts to reach the city have been blocked by authorities who have used tear gas and heavily barricaded entry points into New Delhi to avoid a repeat of the 2021 protests where farmers camped out the Indian capital for more than a year. At the heart of the latest protests is a demand for legislation that would guarantee minimum support prices for all farm produce, as well as calling for the government to follow through on promises to double their income, waive their loans, and withdraw legal cases brought against them during the 2021 protests.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has received a car from Russian President Vladimir Putin as a gift for his personal use. KCNA news agency said the Russian-made limousine was delivered to Kim's top aides on February 18. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed that Kim received an Urus car, which is Russia's first full-size luxury sedan. Other reports said the sedan was also Putin's presidential car. Meanwhile, Deputy Department Director Kim Yo-jong, or Kim Jong-un's sister, expressed her gratitude, adding that Putin's gift is a clear demonstration of the special friendly relations between the leaders of North Korea and Russia. Some analysts say Putin's gift to Kim could be a violation of a United Nations ban that Russia had signed to adopt against North Korea. Seoul argued that Security Council sanctions on North Korea prohibit directly or indirectly supplying, selling, or moving all vehicles internationally categorized as HS code 86 through to 89, regardless of their origin to North Korea. Such restrictions, according to Seoul, include luxury cars. South Korea's foreign ministry spokesperson Lim Soo-seok said they are closely monitoring the cooperation between Russia and North Korea. He also urged both countries to comply with UN Security Council resolutions.
Australia has unveiled an ambitious decade-long strategy aimed at significantly enhancing its naval capabilities and bolstering defense expenditure by an additional $7.25 billion.
Today, the Albanese government is announcing an increase in the number of warships in the Royal Australian Navy to being the largest fleet since the end of the Second World War. Right now, the Royal Australian Navy has 11 warships. As a result of the government's response to the Surface Fleet Review, today we are committing to take that number to 26.
Defense Minister Richard Marles pointed to escalating geopolitical tensions, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, driven by heightened competition between the United States and China as a primary motivation behind the initiative. Outlined in the plan are provisions for 600 class frigates, 11 general-purpose frigates, 3 air warfare destroyers, and 6 cutting-edge surface warships designed for unmanned operations. A portion of the fleet will be equipped with Tomahawk missiles capable of executing long-range strikes on targets situated deep within enemy territory.
Last week, Ukrainian forces surrendered the eastern city of Avdiivka, which they had for months been desperately defending against Russia. The conquest of Avdiivka represents a strategic and symbolic victory for Russia, strengthening its defense of the regional capital of Donetsk, potentially opening up avenues for further offensives against Ukrainian-held territory. Russian forces have completed their takeover of Avdiivka by eliminating the last pocket of resistance at the eastern Ukraine city's huge coke plant after the sheer weight of its troop numbers and greater air and artillery firepower drove out Kyiv's forces.
Генерал-полковника Андрея Мордвичева взят под полный контроль город Авдеевка Донецкой Народной Республики, являвшийся мощным оборонительным узлом вооруженных сил Украины.
Moscow officials announced over the weekend that they had taken control of Avdiivka as Ukrainian forces confirmed pulling out of the bombed-out city in what amounted to a triumph for the Kremlin after a costly 4-month campaign for Kyiv. The victory was a morale boost for Russia, days ahead of the 2-year anniversary of its full-scale invasion on February 24. For Ukraine, its defeat is a reminder of its reliance on the supply of Western weapons and ammunition, as holdups in the delivery of expected aid have left it handicapped in the firefight. Russia will likely keep pressing its advantage, sensing that Ukraine is weakened.
Войска группировки «Войск-Центр» продолжают наступательные действия по дальнейшему освобождению Донецкой Народной Республики от украинских националистов.
President Joe Biden says he is considering more sanctions on Russia after the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Rose Papa-Angelos tells us more.
President Joe Biden says although the U.S. already have sanctions on Russia, it is considering additional sanctions after opposition leader Alexei Navalny has died at the Arctic prison. Navalny was serving a 3-decade prison term.
We already have sanctions moving and we're considering additional sanctions, yes.
Biden and other Western allies have already used unprecedented sanctions as a way of throttling support for Moscow's war in Ukraine. They have also, at the same time, supplied Kyiv with both weapons and aid. Meanwhile, doubts have been growing over Washington's future commitment to Ukraine. With existing U.S. funding already depleted, Republicans in the House of Representatives have been stalling $60 billion in new military aid. Biden slams Republicans again over the failure to pass the aid package.
Would you go as far as to say that election about these blood is on the hands of House Republicans right now?
I wouldn't use that term. They're making a big mistake not responding. Look, the way they're walking away from the threat of Russia, the way they're walking away from NATO, the way they're walking away from meeting our obligations is just shocking. I've been here a while. I've never seen anything like this.
The president says he would be happy to meet with Speaker of the Republican-led House of Representatives, Mike Johnson. Johnson, however, has expressed no intention of even allowing a vote on the package. He adds that he hopes Navalny's death would make a difference when it came to passing the aid. Rose Papaangeles from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ursula von der Leyen is running for a second term as the European Commission's president, vowing to centralize defense. She was first appointed as the EU's top official in 2019.
Heute, 5 Jahre später, treffe ich eine ganz bewusste und wohlüberlegte Entscheidung. Ich möchte mich für eine zweite Amtszeit bewerben und ich bin der CDU sehr dankbar, dass sie mich heute als Spitzenkandidatin für die EVP vorschlägt. Und Friedrich, ich danke auch. Wir müssen den Migrationspakt in die Tat umsetzen und Europa gemeinsam an seinen Außengrenzen stärken. Und wir müssen Europas Verteidigungsfähigkeit ausbauen. Und da denke ich vor allem an die industrielle Basis.
Ursula von der Leyen, or VDL as she has become universally known, also vowed to use Brussels funds to build the next generation of tanks, fighter jets, and drones. Analysts believe VDL aims to make the EU a true security powerhouse to end its reliance on the United States.
A judge investigating the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse has indicted several prominent figures, including his widow Martine Moïse, former Prime Minister Claude Joseph, and the former National Police Chief Leon Charles, among others. These indictments are anticipated to exacerbate the ongoing instability in Haiti, which is grappling with a surge of gang violence and attempting to recover from a series of violent protests. The 122-page report issued by Judge Walter Wester-Voltaire names dozens of suspects. Leon Charles, who was the police chief at the time of President Moïse's assassination, faces grave charges, including murder, criminal association, and illegal possession of weapons, among others. Former PM Joseph and widow Martine Moïse who were injured during the attack are accused of complicity and involvement in criminal association.
El Salvador President Nayib Bukele and his New Ideas Party have secured the supermajority in Congress necessary for him to govern with considerable autonomy.
Mire, todos esperábamos esto, porque si no ganaba, iba a ser un desastre por completo. Entonces nosotros.
This follows a long-winded vote counting process, which has drawn criticism from electoral monitors and the country's opposition, who have pointed to irregularities. President Bukele secured re-election on February 4th with an overwhelming 84.7% of the vote, while the New Ideas Party clinched 54 out of the 60 congressional seats on Monday, with allied parties winning 3 others. Despite the final results not being officially declared, the president had already claimed victory both in the presidential race and in the Congress on the night of the election.
En toda la historia del mundo, desde que existe la democracia, nunca un proyecto había ganado con la cantidad de votos que hemos ganado este día. Es literalmente el porcentaje más alto de toda la historia. Es la diferencia entre el primero y el segundo lugar más alta en toda la historia.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's prosecutor's office releases alleged evidence linking activist Rocio San Miguel to a plan to assassinate President Nicolas Maduro. Ralph Cornell has the details.
Venezuelan Attorney General Tariq William Saab presents seized maps and computers to the press and shows fragments of what he says as an operation order confiscated from a detained soldier, Rocio San Miguel. San Miguel is also accused of participating in the assassination plan against President Nicolas Maduro. San Miguel is accused of having made liaisons with the media to update them of the progress of their operation, generate communicational affinity with the military population, and coordinate the defense of officers involved through Citizen Control. Citizen Control is an NGO that San Miguel directs, specializing in issues related to the armed forces. The United States and the European Union expressed concern about the arrest of the activist on February 9th. The Maduro government ordered the suspension of the activities of the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in Caracas after it also questioned the arrest. Saab says the maps seized in the raid on the San Miguel home had demarcated military headquarters. Defense lawyer Joel Garcia reports that those maps were used by San Miguel when she taught at the military institutes and that they dated from the late 1990s. Saab also accuses the activist of receiving payments from an oil transnational and of acting as an agent for foreign embassies. Ralph Cornell from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Yemen's Houthi rebels have taken responsibility for targeting a British vessel in the Gulf of Aden and downing a U.S. military drone in the western part of the country. Houthi spokesman Yahya Sari stated that the attack inflicted significant damage on the British vessel, causing it to come to a complete stop and leaving it in danger of sinking in the Gulf of Aden. He also claimed that the group's air defense system successfully intercepted and downed a U.S. MQ-9 drone engaged in what he described as hostile operations against Yemen, allegedly on behalf of Israel. As of now, there have been no official statements from the United States or the United Kingdom regarding these incidents.
The United Nations says international envoys to Afghanistan hope for Taliban engagement in future meetings. This after the government in Kabul snubs an invitation to attend discussions in Doha. EJ Gonzalez reports.
National and regional special envoys to Afghanistan convene in Doha in the second United Nations meeting of its kind in less than a year. It remained unclear, however, whether Taliban authorities would join the closed session event. The two-day meeting hosted by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres discussed increasing engagement with Afghanistan and a more coordinated response to the Central Asian nation. Guterres says the envoys look forward to Taliban engagement in the future.
So the meeting was extremely useful. Obviously, it would be better if we would also have the opportunity after the meeting that we had yesterday evening and this morning to discuss our conclusions with the de facto authorities. It did not happen today. It will happen in the near future.
After Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan in 2021, the international community has wrestled with its approach to the country's new rulers. At the close of the conference's first day in Qatar, the Kabul government's participation remained unclear. Qatar has hosted the Taliban during years of peace talks with the United States. The UN shares a list which detailed participants including the US, China, Pakistan, and the European Union. The list does not include the Taliban authorities. The UN also details that Afghan civil society participants, including women, were taking part in the meeting. It does not categorically say the Taliban had refused to attend. EJ Gonzalez from Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal met for bilateral talks, including an investment treaty to reconstruct Kyiv. Kishida did not specify more details on the investment treaty, but Shmyhal said that Tokyo would allocate $1.35 billion to support Japanese investors in Ukraine in a program in two parts.
日本の戦後災害復興こうした際の知見民間の 先進的技術、ノウハウ、これらを活用して官民一体となってオールジャパンで取り組んでいきます。
Kishida also pledged a new bilateral tax treaty and an easing of visa requirements. Shimhal said that he hoped to see major car makers, including Toyota, create production facilities in Ukraine.
Ми вдячні за підтримку з боку японської організації зовнішньої торгівлі JETRO, а також японському агентству міжнародного співробітництва JICA. Вітаємо поновлення роботи вашого офісу у Києві. Від початку повномасштабного російського вторгнення Японія надала Україні різної допомоги на суму вже більше 10 мільярдів доларів, і ця допомога продовжує надходити.
Since the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Japan has pledged more than $10 billion worth of financial aid. Japan, however, cannot provide direct military support under its own regulations. War experts say the funds from Japan are crucial as budget aid from other allies of Kyiv is delayed.
Hirotake Yano, the founder of discount Daiso Industries, has died of a heart failure. He was 80 years old. Daiso Industries said the Japanese billionaire passed away in Hiroshima on February 12. Close family members held a private funeral. Data from the Bloomberg Billionaires Index says Yano had a net worth of about $1.9 billion at the time of his death. Yano was known in Japan as a pioneer of the discounted dollar shop business model. After graduating from Tokyo's Chuo University in 1967, he worked different jobs before he founded a small shop. He started Daiso in 1977. The name translates to creating something big. Daiso has over 4,360 stores across Japan and more than 990 overseas stores by the end of 2023. The chain is known for selling knickknacks and household goods for mostly under $1 per piece. Up next, multiple thunderstorms strike Sydney. The Eiffel Tower closes as employees go on strike. And the U.S. celebrates Black History Month. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
for doing this. Help, say. Ay! Bakit dyan? Yung code ko na putol. Okay lang. Naku, meron po tayong biglaang bisita dito. Si Whitney Tyson! Ayan! Whitney, meet Nancy Castiglione. Hi! Ha? Talaga? Na-discover ka sa mall?
Hindi sa mall, sa Angeles.
Anong gagawin niyo rito? Sama ako, ha? Hindi, magpe-prep tayo ng baon ng mga anak namin.
Hi, I'm Nancy Castiglione. Watch me on Magandang Araw.
Dito lang sa Net 25, every Saturday, 3 p.m.
Magandang araw, magandang araw. Let's get together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
him or hate him, this controversial figure has been in and out of the headlines for more than a decade due to his contributions to the internet and the political landscape today. To shed light on who Julian Assange is, we have TJ Mendoza with the story.
Julian Assange was born and raised in Townsville, Australia, July 1971. He is an Australian editor, and in 2006, he founded WikiLeaks, which specializes in the analysis and publication of large datasets of censored or redacted official materials involving war, espionage, and corruption. He gained a reputation in his teenage years as a sophisticated computer programmer. In 1995, he was arrested due to accusations of hacking. He was then granted bail on the condition that he did not reoffend. In April 2010, when this website rose to prominence, as WikiLeaks published classified materials about American military activity, which involved about 90,000 classified documents and 400,000 U.S. secret files on the Iraq War. His authorized dissemination of these crucial documents triggered politicians and authorities, as they saw this as crucial and may put lives at risk. In December 2010, Assange was charged with sexual assault allegations of molesting 2 women in Sweden and was arrested by British police on a European arrest warrant issued by Swedish authorities. Assange denied this allegation and said that this was a move to extradite him to the US to face charges over the WikiLeaks release. In June 2012, Assange appealed to the UK Supreme Court and it was rejected. He then sought asylum in London in the Ecuadorian embassy. In 2019, the embassy revoked Assange's asylum and the US then issued a sealed indictment charging him with conspiracy to publish classified US documents. The US Department of Justice asked Britain to extradite Assange to face 18 charges under the Espionage Act. In 2021, Assange experienced serious health deterioration that provoked a British judge to rule against the extradition request of the US. The US then appealed and won in London's high courts, assuring that he would be transferred to Australia to serve any sentence. TJ Mendoza for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The High Court in London has started hearing WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's final UK appeal against his extradition to the United States. The 52-year-old editor-in-chief is facing trial over publishing secret U.S. military and diplomatic files. But U.S. prosecutors allege that the leaks made by Assange imperiled the lives of their agents, adding that there is no excuse for his criminality. Assange's lawyer disputed the allegation, arguing that the case was politically motivated and a concern to journalists across the world. Assange's supporters called for his release, insisting Assange is a journalist being persecuted for exposing the alleged wrongdoing of the United States. Assange's wife, Stella, says that the charges against Assange are an attack on all journalists and an attack on the public's right to know.
This case is an admission by the United States that they now criminalize investigative journalism. It's an attack on all journalists all over the world. It's an attack on the truth, and it's an attack on the public's right to know. Julian is a political prisoner, and his life is at risk. What happened to Navalny can happen to Julian. He has to be released. This farce has to end.
In other news, 4 people were hospitalized after being struck by lightning in Sydney's Botanic Gardens. New South Wales ambulance spokesperson says that the victims were standing underneath a tree when struck Monday afternoon. Weather Zone reports say that about 75,000 lightning strikes were recorded within 100 kilometers of Sydney during the storm. Victims include a teenage boy and a woman in her 20s who were taken to the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, while an older man and a woman, both in their 30s, were taken to St. Vincent Hospital. all of them now in stable condition. The 4 were knocked unconscious after lightning struck, but regained consciousness afterward. Patients sustained injuries, but they are being monitored for cardiac issues. NSW State Emergency Service advised the public to take care while driving, with some trees down and water over the main roads.
Meanwhile, at least 2 airstrikes hit an area in southern Lebanon. Lebanese state media claim that the strikes were launched by Israel. Witnesses said that several explosions occurred. Residents said a thick black column of smoke rose from around Ghazieh. Meanwhile, the Israeli military claimed it had struck a weapons depot near the port city Sidon.
College Station Police Department responded to a huge water leak shooting into the air in Texas. The police said it closed the road for maintenance. Meanwhile, authorities said that the leak was isolated. Residents reported low water pressure and discolored water. This is due to the leak, as it caused a substantial decrease in water pressure across the area.
Authorities said more than 6,000 interns and residents from the medical profession had resigned in South Korea. The mass resignation came after the government announced its plans to boost admissions into medical schools. But the health ministry said the resignations were not accepted. Still, some 1,630 medical staff had left by the end of Monday. President Yoon Suk-yeol said the government would not back down over the necessary reforms, insisting it is an essential measure for caring for the country's fast-aging population. But doctors opposed the reforms, claiming it would hurt the quality of medical service. This Tuesday, more than 1,600 trainee doctors at some of South Korea's major hospitals walked out, defying government orders to stay at work. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo pleaded with the doctors, saying not to take people's lives and health hostage. He also ordered emergency measures such as the use of telemedicine and the opening up of military clinics to address the current protests and walkouts.
One of Europe's most remarkable structures has turned away thousands of its visitors. This was amidst the Eiffel Tower's employees continuing with their protests against poor financial management. The popular Eiffel Tower that stands at the heart of the city has been closed off to tourists visiting Paris. This iconic landmark has put up a signage on its entrance that says, due to a strike, the Eiffel Tower is closed. We apologize. Visitors planning to see the tower were also warned in multiple languages on its website, informing about disruptions and advising tourists to postpone their trips. The closure, which was the second one to happen in 2 months, contrasts its usual schedule of opening all year round. The unions claim that the cost of maintenance and repair of the tower for the upcoming Olympics is being underestimated by the company that oversees the tower, Société d'Exploitation de la Tour Eiffel, or SETE. Paris has been accommodating about 6 million visitors each year and is expected to welcome multiple tourists this 2024, as they are set to host this year's Summer Olympics in July.
In celebration of Black History Month, local authors in Corpus Christi, Texas, hold a literary talk. They express their views on book bans, favorite Black authors, and finding the courage to pick up the pen and share unique stories with the world. Jane Kathleen Gregorio tells us more.
In honor of Black History Month, the Corpus Christi Public Libraries, in partnership with the Corpus Christi Black Chamber of Commerce, held a literary spotlight, inviting local authors from diverse backgrounds to share their own literary journeys.
So today's event was called Literature Spotlight, Black History and Beyond. And so today we had 3 authors. We featured 3 Black authors, myself, Dr. Tammy, and Lisa Wisner, and Clifton Pope. And all of us were on a panel. The panel discussion today was the impact of book bans on Black authors. Like historically, like those great authors like Toni Morrison, Maya Angelo, who have inspired us or encouraged us in some way or informed the way that we write. And so it was really a great experience. I really enjoyed it. Great audience and very engaged audience, and had some great questions for us. So we got to feature our books and share our books and talk about the work that we're doing.
Leaving a legacy behind is super, super important, because that's kind of the reason why I decided to basically not only tell my own story by writing my own books, which by the way wasn't even part of the plan. I gave it a shot, and I would basically tell my own story based off of just how I continue to grow through what I go through, as far as just continuing to find ways to improve within my own life.
For our audience members, we want them to think about them telling their story, how they can capture their story and create a legacy. So what they want to leave behind, whether it's a memoir, they just keep, what Lisa Wisner, one of the authors, mentioned was a yearbook, where you keep a chronicle of all the things that you've done and artifacts or thoughts from the year. And so we just encourage the participants to, one, to have that yearbook, have that place to journal, to write if they want to write, and to leave something behind. And then of course read some of the banned books. There was so many banned books that were mentioned that was shared with the audience, of recommendations, so we encouraged them to read. So it was great to engage in the audience and actually leave them like, what can I do today? What can I do right now, as opposed to the future and maybe someday, one day, but right now.
What I absolutely love about the speakers that were on the panel was the conversation went from talking about literature and celebrating Black authors to talking about what's going on today, to talking about how we are one and we are better together as a community. Hopefully today people were educated, motivated, and inspired not only to be the best version of themselves, but also to see themselves in the stories that we told today. When we're reading books, when we're consuming literature from other authors, we're really seeing things from their perspective. And the way we have a more unified world is by hearing things from multiple perspectives, by being able to take those glasses off that we're seeing things from our perspective and putting someone else's glasses on. And that's where opening the book comes in, and you start to see how somebody's thoughts and ideas and their experiences can be embedded and weaved into the tapestry that can become our lives. That creates empathy, it creates compassion, and it actually builds kindness and respect in our world, because we start to see that even though we may look different, we all may have a unified thought, and we all may be going through the common things in life, right? We all struggle, we all experience joy. So now it's your turn. What are you going to do today to elevate your voice in our community? What legacy are you going to leave behind?
Our authors were amazing. They had such inspiring words to say, and I think it was great, and I hope that we can do this again.
And thank you for being here, allowing us to bring these type of programs to you. We want to not only reflect the community that we serve, but also serve as a catalyst as an organization for better conversations, to push for better outcomes.
In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
India is set to launch its homegrown spy satellite into space. Developed by Tata Advanced Systems, the inaugural projects would mark significant progress in India's space capabilities. Media reported that the satellite will be carried by a SpaceX rocket and is scheduled to be lifted off by April. The satellite is said to be operated from Bengaluru to maintain secrecy of operations. India's spy satellite will be used for reconnaissance and military surveillance, as well as taking images of Earth's surface and videos for geopolitical purposes.
South Korean scientists have developed their sustainable hybrid food of what they call meaty rice. This is to combat food crises and climate change. Yonsei University scientists developed a new type of lab-grown grain, which is packed with beef muscle and fat cells. When cooked, the grain will result in a pink rice. The team claimed that the rice could offer a cheaper and more environmentally meat alternative, as it leaves a smaller carbon footprint. Korean government data shows that beef costs around $15. To compare, the hybrid rice, if commercialized, is estimated to lie around $2.23 per kilo. According to South Korean scientists, the grain was coated in fish gelatin for the beef cells to stick onto the rice and left cultured in a petri dish for up to 11 days. The team emphasized that they further develop the process before the rice goes on the market.
coming right up. London Fashion Week is going for a more accessible approach. Gilas Pilipinas gets ready for their FIBA qualifiers. And titans of pop culture are honored at the People's Choice Awards. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment. Mata ng Agila International will be back.
Gusto ka, happy ka.
The living legend, the one and only Juan Ponce Enrile in the house!
Alam mo, sinabi mo 100, inaisip ko gurang na pala ako. I went through a timeline of a century. At the age of 6, I was already a fisherman. I was so angry, but I could not do anything. I was powerless.
Dahil sa babae, munti kayong mapatay. You were tortured by the Japanese.
Sometimes I dream about it. Those things will not leave you. Sampal, paano na los cuernos?
Ano po ang inyong opinyon na nakabalik po talaga sa pwesto ang mga Marcos?
Many of the things said about Marcos were not true. I am willing to debate with anybody. Tell me the time and place, and I'll take you on.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
You do not have to learn these things from books. You learn it by experience. Just remember my name and you spell it well.
Juan Ponce Enrile, happy birthday to you. Kayang-kaya pa.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
As the London Fashion Week is underway, several new designers are looking into integrating their cultural roots into their form for functional designs. We have Diana Hagacer with a report.
Familial nostalgia, cultural roots, and the hectic pace of London, life marked the second day of London Fashion Week on Saturday as up-and-coming designers showed off their styles for the season ahead. The 5-day fashion extravaganza celebrating its 40th year in the UK capital, bringing together creators, influencers, buyers, and celebrities, with organizers hoping it brings some cheer to young designers hit by a gloomy economy. Around 60 budding talents as well as renowned names like Burberry will present its 2024 autumn-winter lines across London on live and virtual stages. Unlike Paris and Milan, which predominantly showcases established houses, London Fashion Week is heralded for promoting young talents such as Masha Popova and British-Nigerian designer Tolu Coker, who kick off the event Friday. The 40th anniversary edition of the event is also introducing greater diversity and exclusivity in terms of body shapes, ages, or skin colors of the models, as well as in the designer collection. London Fashion Week comes at a tumultuous time for Britain's fashion industry, amidst post-Brexit trade barriers and the country's inflation-fueled cost of living crisis. The difficult economic situation has even prompted some nascent designers to question the viability of investing in British fashion events. The industry, which employs close to 900,000 people in the UK and contributes £21 billion to the British economy, is facing incredibly challenging times, London Fashion Week director Carolyn Rush told AFP. Diana Hagacer from the United Kingdom for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Gilas Pilipinas has left this morning as the national squad, now under coach Tim Cohn, flies to Hong Kong ahead of the team's opening game of the first window of the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. The national squad, bannered by naturalized player Justin Brownlee, will have one extra day to practice before seeing action on Thursday, February 22 against the host nation at the Xuan Wan Sports Center. The Philippine team will be without Gilas mainstay Junmar Fajardo, who has been ruled out of the first window due to a partial tear on his left calf, an injury he sustained during the PBA season. Head coach Tim Cohn has yet to name who will take the spot of Fajardo for the meantime. Also out for the first window is young Filipino Cypriot slotman AJ Edu, who sustained a torn meniscus last December while playing for the Toyama Grouses in the Japan B-League. Taking Edu's spot is Barangay Ginebra's veteran big man Japet Aguilar, who will be back for another tour of duty with the national squad. Outside Brownlee, the national squad also has Scotty Thompson and Jamie Malonzo of Ginebra, Meralco wingman Chris Newsome, TNT's Calvin Oftana, San Miguel's athletic forward CJ Perez, along with Japan B-League Asian imports Dwight Ramos, Carl Tamayo, and Kai Soto, along with UAAP star Kevin Kiambao. Perez is coming off a sensational conference in the PBA that saw him win the Best Player of the Conference, along with the final's Most Valuable Player award. Meanwhile, veteran Barangay Ginebra guard L.A. Tenorio is back in a familiar role at Gilas, where he took part in the national team's 4-day closed-door training camp. As a member of the national team since his early days, the 39-year-old has been tapped by Cohn to help fast-track the learning process of the members of the national squad.
Get ready for an electrifying episode of Karina Interviews as the iconic show welcomes a living legend, former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Enrile, who recently reached 100 years old, stands as a towering figure in Philippine politics, renowned for his influence and stirring controversies. In this exclusive sit-down, Enrile will take us on a riveting journey through his illustrious career, spanning nearly 4 decades in the Senate. Expect an insightful reflection on his pivotal role during the martial law era and the seismic shifts of the 1986 People Power Revolution. Enrile's first-hand accounts and sharp analysis promise to unravel the complexities of a defining chapter in Philippine history. Please tune in to this must-see episode of Karina Interviews and witness history in the making.
BTS's Jungkook has won the Male Artist of the Year category of the People's Choice Awards, aired live on Sunday in California. Catherine Ortula has the scoop.
K-pop sensation Jungkook of BTS established himself as a significant figure in the global music scene when he was named Male Artist of the Year at the 2024 People's Choice Awards on February 18. With 4 nominations under his belt, including Pop Artist of the Year, Male Artist of the Year, New Artist of the Year, and Collaboration Song of the Year for his track 7 featuring Lado, the Golden Magnate's win is a testimony that global audiences recognize his talent. The award also makes him the first Korean celebrity to achieve this milestone. Jungkook, currently serving in the military, professed gratitude for the love and support of his global fandom, the Army. Meanwhile, the South Korean boy band Stray Kids won the Group/Duo of the Year award. Meanwhile, in other categories, Greta Gerwig's Barbie won 6 awards, including Best Movie and Best Comedy Movie, while Oppenheimer received only 1 award, the Drama Movie of the Year category. Taylor Swift won Best Female Music Artist, Best Female Pop Music Artist, Best Concert Tour, and Best Social Celebrity. Her boyfriend Travis Kelce was named Best Athlete. The People's Choice Awards, considered the biggest award in pop culture, have been awarding artists and entertainers in various fields, including movies, television, and music, since 1975, with the public and fans voting for the winners.
I love you guys. Good night.
Catherine Artula for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
And to send you off tonight, here's a quote from American humorist and writer Sam Levinson. Don't watch the clock do what it does. Keep going.
I'm somebody who gets stressed out by time. Sometimes I feel like I have too much of it. Sometimes I feel like I don't have enough. But I also know now, stressing out about it just wastes time in general.
Exactly, and it's very relative. It's up to you how you take it. And know that even a broken clock tells the right time at least twice in a day. Well, for those of you who are still on the road at the moment, please don't fail to tune in to Eagle FM 95.5.
You can also catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.